So welcome back. Today I have a special guest, real special guest, and I will give her a proper introduction, and we'll just start it off like this. So my special guest today, she is the CEO of Hill Country Education and Training Consultants, and what they do is they give guidance to the workforce development stakeholders. So anyone watching this that's a stakeholder in the workforce development community, reach out to Hill Country. They can help guide you in the right direction. She's also the Senior Director of Strategic Partnership for Learning Mate Education and Technology Organization. And in that role, she develops hybrid workforce training solutions for the workforce development ecosystem. Again, I don't know if you're picking up on this trend. She's sort of a workforce development subject matter expert. She previously served as the Managing Director for the Alamo Region Workforce Solutions, 16 career centers in 13 Texas counties. And in that position, she led the COVID relief efforts and reskilling the workforce for pandemic-proof jobs. We live in an environment now where we need people that can get skilled for pandemic-proof jobs because, I mean, we're only 2 years away from the climax of the pandemic, right? And that effort right there, that was something that was much needed. And this was a program I was able to witness that had never been done in history. She literally made history. What she was doing as managing director in that role. She also served as the director for integrated basic education skills training for one of the largest community college populations in the world, which is Alamo Community College Districts. And then last but not least, she's a doctoral candidate at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley with the concentration in, guess what, economic and workforce development. With the focus in digital curriculum and instruction. It gives me great honor to welcome my special guest, Melissa Sadler Neetu.
Thank you. Thank you. So excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm like super excited to have you. So in today's discussion, so I want to just forewarn everyone, this will not be the last time they see you on our platform. Because I've asked her to be a recurring guest and she accepted. And today's conversation, we're going to talk about WIOA. So being that you are the workforce development guru that you are, can you open us up on first, what I would like for you to do is kind of share your story on how you were able to progress through your different accomplishments and become the cyber workforce development subject matter expert that you are. And then once we get that story, then I want you to explain what WIOA is. So the floor is yours, ma'am.
Okay. So how I got started? Well, I think one of the things about education, I started my career in education, and I always wanted to work in urban school districts because to me, that is where I think we need the strongest teachers. We need the strongest people that are going to make real change in the lives of students that attend. And so that was always my dream, to work in an urban school district. So I was teaching English, actually, is how I started. And but I quickly realized teaching English in San Antonio Independent School District, and the students that I worked with, I had the opportunity to work at not far from where Dynamic Advancement is. It's called St. Philip's Southwest Campus, and that was a really interesting time. Kelly Workforce Base had been closed down as a government operation and reinstated as private organizations or corporate organizations.
Yeah.
And the same work, but at the time they wanted to move this away from government operations and make it private industry for efficiency. So it was a time when the entire neighborhood had been built up to work in the aerospace airframe mechanic industry. That's what everybody expected that they would do when they graduated high school. And now all of a sudden things began to change. So it was an important time. A lot of reinforcements were sent to the area. So I was teaching English at St. Philip's Southwest Campus at a time when they changed it from a military hangar into a a lot of different workforce related positions. So like they have welding in there, they have electrical, they've got collision, they've got all these things. So my job was to teach students in high school in dual credit before it was a thing, before the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation turned it into like thing. Like at the time we were like, 50 people in the Alamo colleges were getting dual credit. So it was a partnership with Alamo Colleges in San Antonio Independent School District. Still in existence. You can visit it today. Fabulous program. So we as teachers were on the campus helping students navigate the whole college system. Ended up being valuable, and that's a whole other conversation. But I think in that moment, I went from being the teacher that teaches traditional things that you find in education, like, Macbeth, and to realizing that what we needed in English, what people who are about to become adults or who already have adult responsibilities, what they really need is they needed to be able to function for work, to get ahead in life.
Mm-hmm.
How practical were the things that we were teaching? Macbeth is great for lifelong learning. I get it. We can all be scholars in that way. But if I need to read the Airframe Mechanic book, which was very difficult if you ever pick one up, very difficult reading, that's what I needed to be able to do. That's really, that's what a student needs to be able to do. So I spent 10 years doing that. Absolutely loved it. But that, I think, was really my launch into the world of workforce, because I began to see education differently, more different than any of my peers who were still sort of on this, high school to college, everybody's going to Harvard. And there's nothing wrong with that. I certainly, it's got some, but when we look at real people in real lives who already have some responsibilities, how do I make that high school education meaningful? How do I really transfer that knowledge into what can become my career and what's available in my area? That doesn't mean that's what I'm going to do my entire life, but I've got to be able to go out there and survive after I get out of high school. So moving into that, went and got a master's, started adult education. And that was another fascinating, that is a WIOA program. A lot of people don't think about what happens when people drop out of school. They just know we have dropouts, right?
Yeah.
And Antonio does have, we have a high dropout rate. I mean, that's one of the challenges in the area that we're working towards. But I never really thought about what happened to people after they left school if they dropped out. We just know they didn't make it. Okay.
Yeah.
So working on that other side was fascinating too. And so I worked in that area for a while, then brought it to Alamo Colleges because we all as a think tank started thinking, if you drop out of school, why does that mean you can't access college? Why does that mean you can't access technical programs that can get you ahead of life? Why does that have to be the end all be all to the next step? And so that's the kind of programs we began putting together.
Nice.
So, and then I think finally, really the last step, because we began to look at collaborations. How do we really tackle a whole workforce program? So like when I'm looking at cybersecurity, we knew at the time cybersecurity was going to dominate San Antonio. It was moving in, it was moving into the Port of San Antonio, which was previously Kelly. It was moving in, we were becoming that secondary to Washington, D.C. So how, and yes, a lot of military people do have those skills, but were there enough? What do we do with the Native population that's here? How do we bring those folks along and get them skilled up? So we had to look at collaborations. Community college can't do it by itself. Universities can't do it by themselves. The high schools can't do it by themselves. The workforce, a lot of people don't even know the workforce as a government agency exists. They can't do it by themselves. So we had to put it all together and make these collaborations and put them in the neighborhoods that people can access easily. So that's really been the focus. That's how I got to where I'm at. I'm passionate about it. And if you can't tell, and
I can tell, I can see it.
And I always wanted to move the needle here, and what works here in San Antonio, I think works in the United States. We can overlay what works here into different places.
Agreed. So what I'm picking up on, started out as a teacher, and you know what? I didn't know that. That's actually fascinating. Started out as a teacher, then just evolved into adult education, and then that evolved into being a workforce development guru. I say guru because anyone who knows Melissa, they know she's a guru. So that's awesome. And to your point, as far as what you said, if it can work here in San Antonio, it can work everywhere. And when you were talking about the urban communities, right? I come from that, right? As far as where I come from an urban community. I leverage programs like the ones that you're talking about. You know, LA County had some programs I was actually able to leverage with, which gave me the education I needed that led me to the Air Force and, you know, getting several, you know, different flavors of education, getting my degrees, my certifications, getting into cyber, right? But it was because of the exposure, right? If I was never exposed through one of these, you know, community partnership programs like the one you just discussed, I don't know, you know, what path I would have been on. So that's amazing. So kudos to, you know, fighting the good fight. So switching gears, if you can explain what WIOA is, because WIOA is an acronym. So if you can just explain what the acronym stands for, and then once you explain what that acronym stands for, explain what it is and its purpose.
Yeah, so WIOA is something that in this little niche of a world we throw around a lot. It stands for Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. And previously it was Workforce Innovation Act. And it really, it began, I think really, after World War II. Some would argue that it started before World War II, but it, you know, you think about the soldiers coming home from World War II, establishing their lives, and how could the government help them, you know, really get back into these careers or get into the careers with their new skills. So that was the concept. It has evolved over time to match our current workforce environment and ecosystem. So WIOA Title I is from the Department of Labor. It's federal funding. It is available in every state and province, or you know, states that should be states but aren't called states yet, like Puerto Rico.
Got you. The territories.
Yes. And so it's a funding stream that's available, and it's a benefit to both job seekers and to businesses.
Okay, so you're saying for if anyone who just happens to be watching this in Puerto Rico or maybe Guam, they can use it too.
I believe they should have a workforce board in their area as well. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. I like it. Now, you said that it's a benefit to job seekers and employers.
Correct.
So, dealer's choice. I'll let you start with, you know, the benefits to each demographic. The choice is yours. You open it up with the category of participants that could leverage this program.
Yeah, let's start with employers, because I think what we're going to end up getting into more is probably the job seeker. But for employers need to know that if they are in a local area that has a workforce board, which should be everywhere in the United States, and they are also, if they're new to an area or operate in an area, that they can benefit from these funds. And the way they benefit is, so businesses can benefit from participating in job fairs if they're looking for employees. And right now, you know, we have the great resignation going on, and the jobs. Yes. Everybody's looking for that talent pipeline, and you can contact your workforce board and ask to be a part of building your talent pipeline, and they will do that for you in a few different ways. One is job fairs. Another one is work experience, and a lot of people that exists, and that's where if you want to train your own employees, you don't really have your business that doesn't really have a lot of expertise that people have to come to the table with or come to the job with, and you want to train them on your own, you can have them for 12 weeks. and you can train them and try them out. And the intent would be that you keep them if they work out well for you. So a lot of people don't even know that that is out there.
No.
and jobs. And so the career centers, they have people coming through looking, and you can, as an employer, be that connection in that career center to the people looking for jobs. So people that you may not have even known how to tap.
Nice. Okay, I like that. What I picked up from what you just shared, that work experience program, I can see how business leaders can kind of leverage that as like a low risk way of bringing in a fresh crops of skilled talent or talent they want to skill, and kind of coach and mentor to do business the way they do business at their organization. That's actually a excellent tool to leverage. So anyone that's, with an employer, HR staff, hiring managers, if you're not leveraging your workforce board, look into it. It's there for you. Use it, maximize it. That's what it's there for. Especially to Melissa's point, we are living in the era of the Great Resignation. So definitely a tool. I know our commissioners here in Texas have voiced their concerns as far as what's going on with the Great Resignation. So employers out there, use that resource. That's awesome.
It's a federal tax paid resource. You should definitely access it.
Most definitely. And a word I use here a lot on this platform is repetition. Repetition is key, right? So one more time, employers, use that resource. Contact your local workforce board, and just look at the resources they have for you, to use to get around what's going on with the Great Resignation. That is awesome. So now let's share how this program can be leveraged for the job seeker.
Yeah. So the job seeker, this is, I think, where probably my expertise in education comes into play, because the jobs can come into the workforce center. And here's a distinction I really need to make. We have these visions of people, banging on the workforce doors when COVID first hit, right? And in the news, we saw that. Unemployment is not the workforce center.
Say that one more time.
The unemployment is not the workforce center. You do not go to the workforce center to do your unemployment claims. And so a workforce center, and the reason why I say that is a workforce center is not just for people getting unemployment. And I think it's kind of had that rap over time. A workforce center is there like a library. It is there for working adults that are in the workforce. Key being that we want to help people that are unemployed, that want to be employed. So lots of reasons for that. It's not all just that I don't feel like working and now I do. A lot of times it could be moms have taken off some time from the workforce because they raised their kids. Somebody may have been taking care of a family member from illness. There's a lot of reasons why people come and go from the workforce. So the workforce center is there to support you through your workforce journey. Some people may be doing a job and they say, you know what, I want to do something different. And I think this is going to be very true for cybersecurity. To get into cybersecurity as an adult, a lot of us are going to have to reskill. It's just a fact. It's a fact. We're going to have to reskill. And even if we want to get in information technology in any capacity, we're going to have to reskill. But I would say, I just read a statistic before we got on here. 1.2 billion people will have to use digital skills in their jobs in the next 5 years. And that means 9 out of 10 jobs are going to require digital skills. So there is no way us needing to upskill. And that's what a workforce center does. It's there for the job seeker, for the job reskiller. And I like to think of it as, a lot of people go to the library without a thought. I want to get a book, I go to the library. I want to use a computer, I go to the library. I want to know about community events, I go to the library. That's how you should think of your workforce center too, because they have computers there that you can get on and use for the purpose of filling out your applications, looking for jobs, doing job searches, even
Mm-hmm.
learning. So that resource is there for everyone.
Nice.
Nope.
Nice. That's a good way to look at that. So again, uh, the program is there for, working adults. Uh, Leverage again, just like I told the employers, leverage that resource. Okay, now job seekers, I'll tell you the same thing. Leverage the resource. It's there for you. Use it. Please use it. And you made a good point too, as far as what you were talking about, as far as reskilling, right? Anyone who wants to get into cyber, uh, what you said, 1.2 billion. 9 out of 10 people using some type of cyber skills. So I have a saying, I like to say cyber is everywhere, right? We are in the digital age, the data age, right? So I foresee that this digital age will last longer than the industrial age and in previous ages, right? Because each one of those eras, they last for a certain amount of time. But I believe the world of tech, cyber, it's not going anywhere. And then also when you look at, right now we're at the beginning stages of technologies like the metaverse, right? I foresee that it's just going to keep stacking and stacking and stacking to where we're getting closer to the matrix.
Well, I think we're integrating. I mean, like, here's a radical thought that I'm getting from my studies and my trends. Like, we become part machine. And that's like the whole steampunk thing. I mean, it's because it is going to be so much part of our world. Like, we may live on the metaverse, we may live double lives, but I know that's not what this program is about. But
that's a different conversation.
It's your meta real estate.
Some people might be getting in trouble with that one.
Yeah.
No, but that's awesome. But to your point, right? Cyber is everywhere, and it isn't going anywhere, right? Even with the conversations that are being had, at a macroeconomic level, as far as bringing the manufacturing industry back to the U.S. A lot of that technology is driven on cyber as well, right?
Manufacturers now want the combination of IT and manufacturing.
Yep. Even when you look at industries like robotics, right? Because people get concerned about, the robots are taking our jobs. Not necessarily. Robots are good for recurring, repeatable tasks, right? But you can never replace that human element, right? And the last recruiters that I interviewed, when we were talking about tech, they were tech recruiters, right? And when you talk about recruiting for tech talent, the very first thing they both talked about was that human element, social IQ, right? Empathy, emotional intelligence type stuff. That is something a robot can never do. We're just not that advanced yet. The humans, we are so complex, right? So don't worry about the robots taking your jobs. They're here to help. And plus, we don't want to make them that smart anyway, because then Skynet will happen. That always scares me. But I think what you described as far as this program, right, WIOA, I'm just gonna put it out there. We're in a crisis. For those who don't track cyber and the talent gaps that are happening the way we do, right? We shared something earlier offline that we are already in a shortage of skilled cyber talent, right? You compound on top of that what happened with the pandemic. You compound what's going on with the Great Resignation, and then you compound the fact that the baby boomers, arguably one of the largest generations, the generation that was responsible for building a lot of wealth that we were able to take advantage of and be fruitful with. They're now going into the retirement phase of their lives. So, and it's, I don't think maybe, I don't know who's responsible for it, the powers that be, whatever you want to call it, considered that to where we were leveraging programs like this to start getting them in so they can get in and start upskilling to start filling the gaps that are being left behind with that generation entering that retirement phase of their careers. So this is really critical. This is really critical that we get the education out there, because I know there's a lot of job seekers, the Great Resignation won't last forever. So I think that this is a really good program to help start building that workforce, that talent. Let's get them in and then start upskilling them. So that's awesome.
Well,
That's awesome. So
if I
go
could
ahead.
add, along the lines of what you're saying, some of us have been talking about it for a while, but that's the point of building the collaborations.
Mm-hmm.
Employers cannot do it alone. That's one of the groups that I left out. Employers cannot do it alone.
Good point.
Education cannot do it alone. The universities cannot do it alone. The workforce itself, we have to build these collaborations. And so in order to comprehensively help somebody get quickly from I need skills to skilled and working, we need to pull these resources together through collaborations. And WIOA offers job seekers that are serious about going a little bit further and getting reskilled, because it's not cheap. It's going to cost some money to reskill and become a cybersecurity or really anything you want to do. But I mean, we know there's some programs out there that are expensive and maybe rightfully so. So we have to be smart about it. We have to use our collaborations. We have to be smart about how we look at it and help the job seeker identify where they are in the process of their skill set and help them navigate. I don't like career ladder, or it's more like a career lattice. And an open entry, open exit pipeline, talent pipeline. So I come in at level, work for a little bit, come out, reskill up, and go in and out of that funnel until I'm kind of at the top of my game or at the place I want to be in what I consider success. So WIOA can help you get launched into that. Once you're launched, as you know, because you've taught me a lot about how the cybersecurity pathway works, or lattice works,
it is definitely a lattice.
Once launched, then sort of the industry will upskill the person, through their own processes. But look at WIOA as the place to launch. If you don't have the skill set, you don't have to be afraid of it. It's not like some mystery that nobody can figure out. We have to figure it out because we're all going to be doing it. So we have to figure it out, and we can get launched into that career from WIOA services.
Good point. So anyone watching this who's an aspiring cyber professional, right? Maybe you're at a point, you want to do it, you just don't know how to take that first step. What Melissa just shared with us is there's a work center in your area. Go find them and see what it takes to get eligible for this program, so you can take that first step to start climbing around that lattice. Because it's not. That's one of my biggest frustrations that I've made it kind of like a passion of mine, like a passion project to help bridge that gap of communication with the employers, the workforce development stakeholders, the job seekers, the economic development councils, everybody in the mix, the community colleges, the high schools, all parties involved, right? It's really to just clarify that conversation, right? Hey, employers, do you even understand what you need? Because a lot of companies, they were started by business leaders, and business leaders may not have been, cyber experts, to where maybe they need something they didn't even know they needed. And then when you have like your economic development teams that are bringing in companies, do they know how to ask the right questions? Because when they hand it over to the workforce boards, is that communication very clear to the boards? Do the boards even understand what the Economic Development Council sold to the businesses to truly start developing the talent that those businesses need, right? And I think that's where that what you were talking about, that collaboration needs to continue happening, so that way we can just remove the communication barriers. A lot of times, from what I've seen, it's just it's innocent, right? I think the intentions are pure as far as what's going on to bring the businesses to the different states, right? Especially Texas. Come to Texas, by the way. But no, you're right. It's just the collaboration needs to continue. But I think it also helps to have people like you and I to just ask the right questions. Funny enough, we were talking about robots. There was a scene in iRobot, and there was a line in iRobot where he was saying you have to ask, the right question. Right?
So, but how do you ask the right question when you don't know what the right question is to ask? So going back to our why is it miscommunication? You know, IT cybersecurity moves fast. It moves faster than the speed of business. And we always talk about you've got to move as fast as the speed of business. And we're looking at government collaborations moving faster than the speed of business.
Yeah.
And so the moment we think we have it figured out, boom, it's already changed again. And so we've got to have those subject matter experts leading the education piece, because without it, then it's easy to stagnate into what was.
Ooh. That's the warning letter right there. Yeah, get the subject matter experts involved. We have you, right? I would like to consider myself a subject matter expert. And we found each other, right? And we just continue seeking each other and keep this conversation going. So that way we can help bridge that communication. So that's awesome. That is awesome. So we've talked about how WIOA, it is a resource. You kind of dug into what WIOA can cover to help the employers. What does WIOA cover for the job seeker?
Yeah, so that's really interesting because it's not a one size fits all. WIOA allows the person who's eligible. So you find out if you're eligible by going to a workforce center. Okay. And so a person who becomes eligible, basics are you have to be an adult, you have to be certain income level, you have to be a US citizen. So there's some things like that. And then they get a little deeper in it with you, like what you're really looking for. And so if you're eligible, you can be eligible for training that's in a demand occupation. So cyber is one of those. So that means that it would cover tuitions. It could cover non-credit tuitions for short-term training. It can cover things that might be considered a barrier to getting to the training. So if you're required to be at training, transportation, just an example, I know somebody, a tire was flat, which was going to prevent them from being able to drive to their training. So WIOA covered the tire being fixed. So there's a lot of things that can cover.
Nice.
It's not limited in that way. Once you're eligible, every effort is put into its limits to help keep you getting through that training and getting to the next step of a job. That is the purpose, and that's what it covers.
Okay, that's awesome. So depends on what you can get eligible for. Work experience, training, some incidentals, if you will. If you get a busted tire and you need transportation to get to said training or work experience. And I've even seen some instances where they covered bus passes and stuff like that.
Electricity. If you have to have electricity or even internet is one of the things that can be covered. If you're in a virtual program and internet is required to do it, that can be covered.
Good point. Definitely. Again, we talked about asking the right questions, right? And for someone who's maybe saying, you know what, I'm going to the work center right now, and let's because we also face the digital divide, right? That's a whole different conversation, but because of the digital divide and the implications of, some people may not have internet access the way they need it, but if internet access is a barrier, ask that counselor that you talk to at the work center, hey, can you help me with internet? Because the training that I found, or maybe the work experience I found, is remote and I have to have internet. And that goes back to a point you made earlier to where cyber is not going anywhere. 9 out of 10 people will need some level of skills in cyber to do their job. So that is awesome that is something that WIOA could potentially cover, because what I've seen from my vantage point is the will is there. They just need the skills. And I like the fact that this is a resource, and there is at least some level of collaboration to help remove these type of barriers. And that's what we need. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I want to kind of reiterate too, I mean, having the digital divide should not be what keeps you from getting skilled up. And I think we proved that in San Antonio during COVID. We found that a lot of people, when given the tools, the divide wasn't the issue. The divide's not the issue.
Mm.
And people were successful. Training, these workforce centers have internet access if it's not possible to do it in your home. You live on a ranch or something like that. There are the libraries available. I mean, there's ways to do this, and they've also, increased what they'll be able to cover, like internet, like laptop, things like that. So that doesn't have to be something that keeps you from getting skilled up. And I think that's a misconception that a lot of providers have, actually. Less job seekers, but more of our maybe our leadership who's been doing this for a while. The perception is there's a digital divide. I must address the digital divide before I can address the training.
Good point. Good point. Good point. Press forward anyway, regardless of what's going on. I like it. That's the message I'm getting from this is move forward. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out together. Go to the library. They're still here. I remember when I was younger, I got into comic books because I got tired of reading all the other books at the library.
McDonald's has Wi-Fi. I mean, it's,
a lot of Wi-Fi.
The ISDs have put it in the parking lots for parents to use. Nice. We can figure that out. Yes.
ISD, independent school districts, for those that are not from Texas. The first time I heard ISD is when I started going to Economic Development Council meetings and stuff like that. I didn't know what an ISD was. So when I hear an acronym like that, I know us Texans now, we know what that is, but I'll always spell it out. That is awesome. That is awesome. So this is a lot of great stuff that you just shared with us as far as WIOA. And when I learned about it, I'm like, this is a great program. And to my understanding, right, they do kind of, or the work centers, right, or the workforce boards, the way I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, they kind of segment, right, as far as how they help each of the employers, get the talent that they need to where they'll break stuff up into different sectors, right? And of course, the sector we care about on this platform is cyber. So when I found out about this, in my eyes and in our eyes, we were like, man, this is a great tool to use to really bolster that cyber workforce, and really pour gasoline on those efforts to let's get them in those entry levels. And like you shared before, I think once we get them in entry level, right, and those work centers are removing barriers to training, learning, getting skilled up, right, leveling up. Once they're in, correct me if I'm wrong, the employers can still leverage those resources to upskill, right?
So there's different programs. I mean, when we talk about WIOA, keep in mind there's over 12 different funding streams that come into a workforce center, and different types of programs, special initiatives that are coming out all the time. So, for employers that are looking for, say, skilling up their employees, their skill development fund, there are different types of supports available. There's on-the-job training that you can get an employee for 50, where the government will cover 50% of the cost for a year while you're developing them into the employee you need. So there's a lot of different types of programs. When you get real WIOA specific, then we talk about a certain eligibility and certain capabilities. But when you open up to what workforce entirely can support, there are a lot of opportunities that we haven't discussed.
Okay. And that's where the recurring guest appearances will come into play. So I guess we'll keep it for this conversation focused on WIOA. So anyone, employers, use it, right? It's there for you to help get that talent you need. Job seekers, it's there for you to go get those skills that you need, so you can go show these companies that you are an asset, right? And this resource is an amazing resource to where if you're sitting at home and you're like, man, I just don't know what to do, this can be something that can help you get started. So that was the main reason why I invited Melissa here, was to educate you, job seeker who wants to get into cyber. You don't know what to do, just go to your local work center, Google it, right? If there was one page that can answer any question in the world, it's Google. You can find your work center. and then they will show, tell you what you need to know how to apply and qualify for that benefit. So we're going ahead and wrapping this up. This has been a great conversation. So as far as you specifically, Melissa, what are some of the projects you're working on now, and then how can people reach you if they wanted to be able to leverage your expertise?
Yeah, so I'm working on a couple of different projects. Consulting is one of them. And so working with organizations to really understand, we can help build collaborations. We can help build the events that create these collaborations around these three sectors. We can help navigate the workforce system. Some people can find it very complex, and it is. And there's also different entities getting involved. So helping to maximize, if you're an education provider, helping to maximize what your possibilities are for getting students, for collaborating with other entities, and how to navigate those. Sometimes they're a little bit cumbersome. And then I think one of my deep passions right now, and touched on it a little bit, is that digital divide. So I'm very interested in how we create robust digital workforce training solutions. And, colleges have done a great job with their traditional curriculum. K-12 has done a great job with their traditional curriculum. We need to do better, and I think we can. So as we have adults that need to get entry-level skills, and as we have people reskilling, we need quick, flexible opportunities to be able to come in and reskill and exit quickly. And it may require some extra resources that you find at the Workforce Center, and it may not. So I was just talking today, like, if you had a bookshelf of all the different programs, right? And I could pull this book out. Here's how to be an electrician. Pull this book out. Here's how to be a help desk, or pull this one. Here's how to be a medical assistant. Think of having a resource where all of these are sitting there and waiting for you to pull that next book. So I'm helping to develop that with Learning and Job Ready. And we are partners with Google Cloud, developing the artificial intelligence, the AI around learning. So really excited to be working on these new trends and technology that will finally, for the first time, be landing in the workforce realm.
Nice. That is awesome. That is awesome. And if anyone wants to reach out to get involved, where's the best place to find you?
I think the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I don't work with them, but I should, because I think it's a great forum for professionals.
It is
Together. It is. And if you're an emerging professional, get on it and treat it like Facebook, because it is the place to network. Most of my information is on LinkedIn. And, you can find my email there. I respond every day, like a lot on the chat. So chat it up with me. I won't decline your invitation. So LinkedIn is probably the best way. I also, I think you can email me and I don't know if you type this out or whatever.
I'll make sure your links and email are in the description. So if you're watching this, just go ahead and expand the description and you can find that contact info. All right. So the last thing I always ask my guests to do is close us out with a piece of advice that a viewer can use right now.
If you've never heard of Workforce before, and this is not, I have spoken to audiences that are, very high level doctoral, and I've spoken to audiences that are high school, and everyone in between, teachers, adjunct, all kinds of professionals. Not enough people know what Workforce is and what it is for you. And I think it's one of those resources that's been underutilized for quite some time.
Definitely.
And I know that the government is putting a lot of resources into it. So learn about what it is and what it can do for you. It's it's an exciting time to be in workforce. It's an exciting time to be around it. So learn how it can support you as a business, learn how it can support you as a learner. And even if you don't use the resources, know about it so that you can tell other people in need of it. It's out there. People are waiting in centers virtually and physically to help you.
Nice, nice. So to encapsulate that, go learn about the workforce resources out there. Thank you, Melissa. It was a pleasure. I'm hoping that whoever's watching this is able to leverage what she just shared with us to take those next steps. And I'm hoping the employers watching this, you're able to tap into this resource and start getting that cyber talent you need. So thanks again. And until next time, cheers to your success.
Thank you, Geronimo.